But although the Congress is waking up and there's a pretty good coalition of liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats coming together and trying to slow this thing up and say the president has no right to do this, at the same time on this DOD budget authorization, they inserted in there an expansion of the power. Actually, if it's passed by the Senate and put in the law, we've literally legalized, we put into the code, even though not in the Constitution, put into the code that the president doesn't have to come to us. They've expanded the definition of our enemy. Today it's Al-Qaeda, and they're allowed to do almost anything there. But they've expanded it to include the Taliban and anything which is considered an associated force. The associated forces, the president has the right to go after no matter what country, or including our own. So this, to me, was one of the most dangerous changes in our law. Was given legitimacy to our president on what he's been doing, and of course there's not much resistance either from the Republicans or the Democrats on this, but hopefully we can wake the American people up to that change.
What about Obama admittedly going to have feds pose as people calling doctors to see if they're taking Medicare, Medicaid patients, which is their right to not do, as you know. This is really freaking doctors out that now the feds are going to be spying on them.
Yes, and I would assume that most of people don't realize that's against the law to do those kind of things. I mean, why should they violate the privacy, of a doctor-patient relationship and come in and fake? It's fraud. It's deceitful. And what kind of punishment might these doctors? What if the doctor say, "I don't take medical care patients"? Who knows what kind of a list you get put on there? But no, that's just one thing leads to the next. Always an unintended consequence. Every time the government does one thing, they create 2 or 3 new problems.
Congressman, just a couple questions left here, and then we're going to ask you how we support the campaign again. Operation Fast and Furious, just to remind listeners, the head of the ATF caught lying to Congress saying he didn't know. Now we have the emails and memorandum. They were running the operation to ship guns into Mexico to then claim that we're causing the violence down there, a form of false flag, a staged event to frame the Second Amendment. He's caught lying. Can you or others call for congressional hearings and haul these people up and, expose what the dreaded ATF has done?
Oh, I'm sure that would be legitimate if somebody's so motivated. I don't happen to be on that particular committee, but yes, government oversight could do that. They could call up and get to the bottom of it, but I haven't heard a whole lot talk. I don't have any special information on that, but they certainly can, and they certainly should.
Yeah, in closing on the political issues, there's new reports out in mainstream television and newspapers that cancer is surging in body scan operators, the TSA at the Boston airport, where it's been for 7 years, and they've had an internal cover-up of the fact that they know that radiation is leaking out of these. Could this be the nail in the coffin of this federal TSA, that they knowingly are not following radiation rules or radiology rules that you'd follow in your practice? And that
let's hope so, but isn't it sad that they have to come to that conclusion after somebody's made sick or get cancer? But the big thing is we got to get the government out of that business. So if they get rid of the machines, then they're going to do a lot more probing and prodding and poking everybody. So it's really tragic. I think what's happening at airports is the litmus test. If the American people can sit back and look at some of those pictures and not be outraged and not demanding changes, when I see that, that's when I have some pessimistic thoughts about what's going to happen in this country. So there's hope that those pictures will so outrage the people that we'll end up doing something about it.
Speaking of the TSA, I've got sources inside the Perry campaign and at Fox News. As you know, Rick Perry, the governor, is planning to run. I would imagine you've got the same intel. And he's going to run on a Ron Paul platform. So he's really going to be the guy you face from our analysis. And Rick Perry quietly tried to kill the good bill. They've rewritten it where it actually puts in the code that the TSA can do this now. in Texas, and they're calling it an anti-TSA bill, kind of like what we saw with the war powers doublespeak of saying they're against what Obama's doing but trying to give him the power.
Right. That's typical. That's why you can never look what they do on the surface. When people want something done, they'll pass a bill and it'll do the opposite, whether it was the war powers resolution or this recent episode of that bill they tried to pass, which literally legalized the war. So, yes, that's what they do, and then they claim victory.
What's your view of Perry? What's your view of Perry?
Well, I might have shaken hands with him, but I don't even remember that. So I don't know him well personally, but I would think that he and I wouldn't have much in agreement on policies.
Well, he was Al Gore's former campaign manager in Texas. I don't think that's a very good... that
ought to tell a few people something.
Well, Congressman, you seemed really happy because you're always so focused, because I know you're a very disciplined man. But when I talked to you in the break before you came live, I don't think I've ever heard you so happy. Am I right in that, I mean, you said, well, I'm sad for the country, but overall I'm happy that folks are starting to wake up. I mean, you are happy.
Yeah, I am, and things have, personally with family and everything has been going pretty well. And that's what, I guess, cheers me up.
Well, thank you, sir. In closing, because I've got millions of listeners, a lot of new big stations across the country. We're not talking to just 1 million every day. We're talking to 3 million every day on the radio alone, not just internet later. We're reaching about 10 million a week. Talking to the millions of new listeners who've never heard you in a long form. They've heard you on TV being interrupted constantly. What can they do to be part of this second American revolution or the restoration of the republic? Give us the orders from headquarters. What do we do to supercharge a campaign that's already on fire?
Well, in very general terms, slightly separate from the campaign, what everybody has to do is be informed, get the information and find out where the problem is and what the answers are and why philosophy is important. When they're informed, then they have to do something, and they can make choices. They can get involved directly. They can become candidates or support candidates. They can get into education. They can get radio talk shows. They can get on the Internet to promote this message. But then when it comes more specific for what I've been doing, we had the educational opportunities through my foundation as well as Campaign for Liberty, but right now we are very much engaged in the presidential campaign. People who are interested in that can go to ronpaul2012.com and find out what they can do, because that's where we need the help. We need people to volunteer. We need to raise money, and right now the next big event for us is to try to find people in Iowa. If anybody knows anybody in Iowa that would be willing to support us and make an effort and come out on August 13th, that would be very helpful to us. And
when's the next money bomb? And folks can give right now at ronpaul2012.com.
Well, there is an effort right now because on the 30th of this month, the books close, and there's a big, that report is significant because it will be blasted all over the country on who raised what. And we won't be the biggest fundraiser, but we're going to have raised a lot. But they were trying to push for, first for 3, then somebody said, maybe we can raise 5, and I think it's not quite at 4 million right now. So the next couple of days, we're hoping to boost that up and have a good showing for the financial reports of this quarter.
All right, Congressman. Well, thank you so much. Okay. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, there goes. Thank you. There goes Congressman Ron Paul, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very exciting information, and great to have him on the broadcast with us today.